let me jump right on in. So, Grace Colby is our one of the amazing learning specialists that we have in the CAP office. And she has worked in higher education since 2015. Her experience has included conduct, first year programs, leadership and service programs, as well as risk management and fraternity and sorority life. She enjoys working with students to develop plans based on their strengths and long term goals. And additionally, Grace is passionate about connecting students with the resources they need to be successful in their professional, academic, and personal lives. So if you guys don't mind joining me in welcoming Grace, I'm going to hand it on over to her.
Such a lovely introduction. Thank you, Lauren. As she said, my name is Grace Colby. I use she, her programs. I work in the Center for Academic Performance, also known as CAP. So if you heard about CAP, this is what we are. I'm one of the many learning specialists in our office. There are currently four of us. So we focus on connecting students to different resources regarding studying, time management strategies, and study skills. So kind of helping you through your academics, but not really the content. I am not an expert in the fields that you as students are studying, but I help you kind of achieve and reach those goals. Um, Talking about studying is also very related to time management routine. So we're going to talk about how to build a routine so you're able to kind of be successful in all the things that you are accomplishing right now as a student. Before I begin, I want to mention our land acknowledgement at HSC, which is currently located at Fort Worth, Texas. It is important to be in relation with the land and its people. We want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of the Kickapoo, Wichita, Tacoma, and Comanches people. And before we go into it, routines can be kind of stressful because you think of all the things you have to do and you want to make sure you kind of get them all done in a timely manner. So take a minute with me and follow this little graphic of being a big breath in and then release. Making sure that you're able to center yourself every time you're trying to work on improvement can be helpful because it does help you be in the right mind space to kind of work on what you're trying to achieve. So definitely always take a minute to breathe before you're trying to make some big changes in your life. So we're talking about routines, we're talking about habits. Why is any of this important? Why does it matter? Why are we talking about this? So a lot of our actions, 40 to 50% of them are done out of habit. So habits help you ensure you're becoming the person you want to do. And we talk about habits, we're talking about how you do things in your life. Maybe it's not something that you do intentionally or you plan to do or kind of start out doing, but it's just kind of how you go through about your day, throughout your week, throughout your month, what makes you you. So comparing routine versus habit. This is a really good little quote. A habit is a behavior that is done with little or no thought, while a routine involves a series of behaviors frequently and intentionally repeated. A behavior has to be a regularly performed routine before it can become a habit at all. So our goal right here is kind of think of what we want our routines to be, and kind of how can we work towards that so it becomes a part of our lives very intentionally. It's not just about willpower. I know y'all are very strong, determined students. You have accomplished great things to be in these programs. And a lot of that may have been of, I want to accomplish this goal, so I'm going to do everything in my power to do that. Um, this isn't really something that you can just kind of power through by brute strength and determination. This is something that you do have to work on, be very intentional and specific about it. Another great quote: when scientists analyze people who appear to have tremendous self-control, it turns to be out those individuals aren't at all that different from those who are struggling. Instead, disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower or self-control. In other words, they spend less time in tempting situations. So it's not just about being strong enough to making sure you're doing the right things. It's a creating an environment and routine that helps you be more successful, that helps you avoid those tempting situations, whether that be social media, going out to eat, playing video games, watching TV, and surrounding yourself with a routine that encourages those positive habits, that positive routine that you want to strive for. So we're going to go into some tips for building a routine. Setting specific goals, knowing what you want to have done and how you're going to reach it. Making cue-based changes. So kind of a call and response within your routines. Making the habit fun and easy. If it's engaging, you're gonna be more willing to do that. Measuring your progress, so making sure that you're looking at all the steps you've taken, an accountability partner, accountability buddy, and being flexible. Sometimes that routine has to change, and small changes. And we're gonna go in a little deeper into all of these. So specific goals, write them down in your planner, your calendar, your mirror, so you see it every day you get ready in the bathroom, on a whiteboard. Write it down where somewhere you can see it. I'm always one of those people that like I'll buy a cute little notebook from Target and I put like my whole life into it. And then in 2 weeks, I forget where that thing is. So me writing it down in a notebook that's like super pretty and organized isn't the best method for me because I don't keep track of that little notebook. Reminders on my phone, on the other hand, I always notice them. I'll set timers, they'll go off at certain days, certain times, and I always notice and check it. Especially if a smartwatch. I know a lot of people like doing that, so you get notifications on your watch. So write them down in a way that will help prompt you to keep you on task so you don't forget what those are. Um, if goals are study based, they can be very big, especially if it's something that I want to understand this system, I want to understand this lecture, I want to study for this class. Breaking them into tasks about how you're going to accomplish it, that goal can also be helpful because then you have specific things you need to do to achieve that goal. And that's also good for not just study based plan. You think about like a workout plan. You say, oh, I want to be healthy. Okay, well, how does that look like? Is it going to the gym and doing these exercises this many times? Is that your plan to reach your goal? So definitely apply goals and tasks to kind of help you reach that. Knowing yourself, kind of going back to my planner that I always lose after really dedicating everything to 2 weeks. Know what works for you and understand what isn't going to work for you. Setting goals and creating a routine isn't, well, yes, be idealistic, but don't reach too far that it's unattainable for you. Focus on things that you can and will do, not things that you should do. Yeah, it's probably great to wake up at 6 a.m. and kind of get a head start on your day and work out in the morning and meal plan your whole day. You should do that, but it's not something you can do all the time. So kind of think of something that works based off of you. Don't base these new habits solely what others are doing. Just because your classmates are doing it, just because your friends are doing it, or your parents tell you you should do it, doesn't mean it's always going to work exactly the same way for you. So, and understanding your motivation besides your action and kind of what makes you work will also be good. So if you're a competitive person and you want to have all these goals and you want to have something to compare it to, do something that'll kind of go along with that. I'm not competitive at all. If it's a competition, I'm like, whatever, I'm just here to have fun. This is fine. So setting myself as a challenge to kind of improve myself, that doesn't work for me. So I'm not going to create habits and routine based off of that. Cue-based changes. Cues are really good because it is a reminder and it creates a loop of a cue, a craving, a response, and reward. If you want to change the habit, determine the cue. And those cues can be, well, when I'm tired and I go home, the first thing I see is my TV. So I kind of just want to sit down. And then I turn on the TV and it kind of goes into that. Or if I'm tired and I don't want to eat, cooking's a lot. So it's really easy for me to just go get order food. That's a cue. I'm hungry. So implementing cues that can help improve your changes. So whether that be when you come home instead of your TV and your lovely couch is there, maybe you planned a meal already. So it's not that your hungry cue is more of, oh yeah, I already have food. I already understood this cue and I know a change I can make to it. Creating a cue for a habit will kind of help you go into it. So if you want to start, working out or waking up early, setting the clue of going to bed earlier so you can ensure that that is possible for you. Repetition here is key. This is when you're going into that habit pattern loop. Make the habit fun and easy. Just because you're doing something that's going to improve you or make you a better student, person, whatever you're striving for, doesn't mean it has to be hard. It doesn't need to be overly complicated either. Habit stacking is something that we kind of call of when you're adding on to an already established habit. So the example they use, if you brush your teeth in the morning, and you make your bed right after, you're used to that. You already brushed your teeth and you're just kind of adding on to that habit that you do every day. Pairing a habit with a more easier one is something to make it more enjoyable and more likely to get done. The example they have here is listen to podcasts while doing dishes. Well, I love listening to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks all the time also. So doing them while I'm doing chores is a way to make it more easy and fun because I'm getting time to do the things I enjoy. And then I'm also doing something that I'm working on improving as a habit. So having my cleaning time be also dedicated audiobook listening time will be a great way to make that habit stack and make it fun and easy. Measuring your progress. So it's going to be a long journey for a lot of these habits and routines you may be making. And they may have some kind of abstract goal also. So being able to celebrate the small wins throughout will kind of let you know what progress you're making and recognizing how far you've come. Consistently acknowledging that you've made progress can help motivate you, especially if you're one that needs to see that measurement of growth, measurement and improvement. And it can also help you look, instead of looking forward at how much you have to do, look back at how much you've accomplished. That kind of makes it seem more realistic that you'll be able to accomplish your goals because you've already done so much. Finding an accountability partner. This helps you kind of schedule check-ins. It doesn't have to be someone you're doing something with. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in the same academic program with you or someone with the same goals for you. People use our learning specialists in CAP as a lot of accountability partners because they'll come in and say, this is what I'm trying to work for, this is what I'm studying. I'll come back in 2 weeks and tell you how that's going and if that routine's still good for me. That's someone that you can lean on, a friend, a family member. The biggest piece is that you're letting them know what you're trying to do, what your goals are, and how you're doing it. This is also beneficial if it's someone who sees you regularly. They can, kind of call you out on, hey, you said you're going to start waking up early and, working out before you start studying. I haven't really seen you do that. Making sure it's someone who can give you the motivation that you need. So I like to be called out if I'm not doing something said I was doing. So that tough love works for me. If it's something that I'm very sensitive about and really nervous about doing it, that doesn't always work out well for me. So I need someone to take a more nurturing approach sometimes. So think about what you need and who can give it to you in the context that will be most helpful for you. And it may not be the same person for everything you're trying to work on. If you're trying to kind of boost your routine related to study and also your diet, maybe it may not be the same person checking in on you. It may not be the same person who's making sure you're studying okay, who's also making sure that you're meal prepping like you said you will. If it is a classmate or someone who's going through the same journey as you, that can also be beneficial because you can also check in with each other. Sometimes going through things with somebody who has similar goals can also be helpful. Being flexible. Just because you said this is your goal doesn't mean it's always going to be the best goal for you. Another good quote, we rarely think about change this way because everyone is consumed by the end goal. But one push-up is better than not exercising. 1 minute of guitar practice is better than none at all. 1 minute of reading is better than never picking up a book. It's better to do less than hope than do nothing at all. So just know that it doesn't always have to be all or nothing. I feel like I say that a lot of my appointments. So looking at that progress and being flexible of what that end goal could be and recognizing that it's not always the same. It's not always this big goal. And that is not always something that you have to wait to celebrate it. Making room for being human and looking at the steps and forward instead of the steps back. So always reminding yourself that this is what I'm working towards. And these goals and habits and routines that you're deciding for yourself, it's something that you've decided for yourself, your own person. You can change them. Just because you told yourself this is what you're going to do at the beginning of the semester, well, a month in, you may figure out, yeah, this isn't it. This is not working for me. That is okay. That is not a failure. That is a success because you have tried something out, you gave it your all. And if it doesn't work for you, it's silly to try to keep doing it. So recognize that you can change your goals throughout any point in this process as long as you're giving it your all and your best shot. focusing on small changes. So not everything has to be done at once. You don't have to go from not working out to Olympic athlete. That's not reasonable. You don't have to go to not studying or studying for 2 hours a day to studying to 12 hours a day. That's ridiculous. That doesn't really make sense. So there are small steps throughout the process to kind of help you get where you are. Thinking about what's manageable for who you are right now. If you're one that struggles and you're going through a goal that's something that is already hard for you, recognizing that this is going to be a difficult task for me. I told myself I was going to study for this amount of time each day, and that's a big goal from where I am right now. So this could be a challenge. So this is how we're going to have to work up to this goal. These small changes build up on each other. So it is something that you can focus on and recognizing I'm making the progress I need to reach my end final goal. And we do have some questions that were submitted beforehand that are going to be more specific type. I'll go through and answer those, and then there'll be more time for questions at the end that Lauren was going to help me moderate through. So the first question that hopefully you're here that was submitted was, should I be building a routine monthly or weekly? So we recommend starting weekly, but sometimes having it broken up by a day or having a larger monthly routine could also be helpful. By day can be helpful when it comes to not being too overwhelming. It makes it more manageable because you can see the right now. But monthly can be good for those routines that you don't need to do every day. If it's a larger monthly routine of I want to have the goal of deep cleaning my refrigerator every month. That's something that doesn't need to be done every day, not every week. I don't even remember the last time I deep cleaned my refrigerator. It should be a monthly routine for me. But recognizing what goal you're trying to reach and how it makes more sense will kind of depend on where it's going. So you don't necessarily have to have one or the other. You can have a mix of both for different tasks. Another question is, how do I build a routine with a full-time working job and studying for the MCAT? Being strategic and intentional about finding pockets of time. So with any busy workload and balancing different things, you're not going to be able to do things as long as you would have done in the past, most likely. So finding any little moments that will give you a chance to focus on one of the things you have to do is going to be really your main goal at this point. So even if it's you're studying for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before while you're cooking dinner, maybe you're putting something in the oven, you have a little extra time. Yeah, that's not as long as 2 hours, but like we were talking about smaller steps, that's better than nothing. And sometimes those smaller pockets are going to be really what helps you build up towards your goal long term. Considering how much you can do in a day while still being effective. So just because you have hours in the day left doesn't mean you have to use them for studying or for working. So recognizing, am I being productive right now? Am I being effective in what I said I was going to be doing? If the answer is no, don't try to squeeze in extra study time. If you're tired by 11 o'clock after doing a lot, maybe it's best just to go to bed. Those flashcards that you wanted to go through, it's probably going to take you a long time to go through it, and you may not even retain a lot. So sometimes it's better for you to take a break and step back than it is to kind of, again, power through something. Protect your time when needed, and recognizing, okay, I have this little extra time, but this isn't where I want to squeeze in study time. Maybe if you take a lunch every day and it's the only 30, 40 minutes that you can just sit, just you, not doing anything else, maybe leave that as your time. Maybe that's not time you're trying to pull out some practice questions or flashcards. So recognizing what breaks do I need, what moments do I need for myself to help me get through the day, and making sure you're protecting those. The question is, what is a healthy and efficient study routine that will not cause burnout? So this is a big one. It definitely depends on the person and depends on what you have going on in your life and your program and like kind of where you are in your program. 8 to 10 hours studying on weekdays and 4 to 5 hours on weekends is the most common that we see students do. That does vary. That varies if you're preparing for an exam that week. That varies if you're working. That varies if you have other things. There's going to be some lower days and some higher days. Health and efficiency, again, depends on the person. Focus on understanding the bigger picture on lecture days when you're studying and then filling in the details later can help you move through material a little better. So you're not trying to have heavy days and heavy study sessions all the time. So kind of balancing and recognizing today I'm going to be learning a lot of new information that's kind of going to be overwhelming. So for the rest of the afternoon, I'm just going to review information that I learned last week that I'm a little more comfortable with. So balancing how you're studying and what you're studying and what you get out of it can be a good way to kind of balance the mental load you're having to take on for each day. Scheduling very purposeful breaks that actually refill your cup. So I highly recommend you not to just pull out your phone when you're taking a break and just doom scroll on social media. That's not really a break because you're not really enjoying it, relaxing it. You're kind of sitting in the same position you were. You just switched the screen you were looking at most of the time. So doing something that can actually stimulate you or refresh you will be more beneficial to your brain because it kind of can step away from something and also physically. So taking a lap around the library if you're studying in there, going downstairs and filling up your bottle of water, going out to get a snack. Maybe you're calling a loved one for 10 minutes and having a phone conversation about something not recommend related to academics. Maybe you're having a little stretch break. It doesn't have to be long at all. Sometimes shorter breaks, like 5 to 10 minutes, can help you get through longer studying periods because you just need to step back and recharge. So just kind of be purposeful and making sure that you're doing something that can help you recharge. This is where I like to suggest doing other things you have to do during your breaks, whether that be unload the dishwasher, go take a shower, plan your next meal, go grocery shopping. It's a chore most of the time, but something that you need to be done and helps your mind get a break and your body do something different besides just sit in front of a computer. And then if you're kind of worried about not being productive, you're still getting things that you need to get done anyway. So you can kind of encourage yourself of, I'm still being productive. I'm still doing what I need to do. Setting reasonable boundaries for what counts as school hours and what hours are just for you. So kind of having end times of your day of this is when I start getting ready for bed. This is when I stop studying. This is the time I start studying, and this is kind of what it looks like. Having those strict boundaries can kind of help you make sure that you do have time for yourself throughout the day. And having an endpoint when it comes to studying. You can study forever. Like you can always learn more. You can always keep studying the information. You can always keep reviewing. But again, just because you have the hours in the day doesn't mean it needs to be spent studying. So kind of recognizing good goals and endpoints of what you want to accomplish for each day, each study session, depending on how you want to lay it out, can help you know that you're reaching your goal, you're accomplishing something, and also helps you be able to reflect on if it was successful or not. So if your goal is to kind of really understand, I'm going to go through module two. That's my goal for today. Module two has covered these two big topics. This is what I want to understand. And going through your day knowing that will let you know of, yeah, I get module two now. I accomplished that a lot. That was really good. I did the practice questions at the end and they all made sense. I'm finished for today. If that ends up being earlier than you thought it would be, great. You can have extra time. You can have more time to do something else. 'Cause again, just you have the time doesn't mean you need to fill it with studying. But this helps you keep on track and also helps you identify how long it takes you to move through information because you're being very specific about what you're doing at what time. Other question is, how can I cope with multiple life interruptions when my current schedule is so tight? Avoid all or nothing as much as possible. So don't think just because you have to give yourself all to it or you need to study all of this right now. Again, looking back at these smaller chunks of time that you can kind of squeeze in is also beneficial. Just because you didn't get to study the whole chapter, you did a good portion of it. So that was still a success. Be honest about what you have to do and what interruptions you have to address and what you feel like you should address. Sometimes it is an interruption that doesn't need to be handled by you. And being honest with yourself as, am I the only person who can deal with a situation? Does this have to be me? Or is this someone I can delegate to? Is there someone else I can ask for help to get to take care of these interruptions maybe during this time so I can focus on my studies right now. This is a good time to kind of lean on your resources you may have when it comes to loved ones or friends, or other organizations when it comes to if it's something job related, family related, can I have you step in here for 2 hours so I can have really dedicated focus time? Prioritize rest. This sounds very counterintuitive when you're talking about wanting to get things done. So why would I be resting? But it is stressful and it can be very critical. Your rest is very critical and important when it comes to balancing a lot of stressful things. So making sure that you have the energy to deal with and tackle everything you need to accomplish is very important. So prioritize rest and take care of yourself because you are still your biggest advocate when it comes to that. And when it comes to studying, you're the only one who can do that. So making sure they are able to do that. Think of big picture thinking. So not so much of, these are my goals, but this is what I'm striving for. And right now it's really hard, but this isn't forever. It's not always going to be like this. So recognizing what you need to do and what you will accomplish to kind of get through that can be helpful because it helps you back to thinking of the journey you're taking. So reminding what you're doing this for and where you're going can be helpful because it lets you know that this isn't forever. It's not always going to be this crazy as it seems sometimes. And do we have any other questions that were submitted in the chat or beforehand?
Yes, so there is one question that was submitted, and as I'm reading through this one, you guys please feel free to post some in the chat or in the Q&A um, option that's in the toolbar below. But the question that was submitted was, how do we recover from falling behind in our schedule?
So when it comes to catching up with academics, it's important to kind of address of where do I need to catch up at? What's important for me to catch up at? And what can I not skip over, but what's not a priority right now? If you're already at a point that you're kind of behind, strapped for time when it comes to preparation, you're not going to be able to accomplish all the things that you wanted to or feel like you should. So, kind of recognizing those most important things that you need to get done, that you need to address, and putting your energy and focusing on that. It comes back to that, does it have to be all or nothing? If you're in three classes and you're doing okay in two of them and the other one you're really falling behind, and you're kind of at the point of understanding is I don't think I'll be able to get the grade I want in this class right now, but in these others two I can. So that's where I'm going to kind of put my energy towards. So kind of figuring out where can I put my energy to help get the outcome that I want and what's going to be more reasonable and feasible for me to accomplish is one that will kind of help you have the time and energy to actually be successful in that? Good question.
I haven't seen any other questions come through in the chat. And also feel free to raise your hand if you want to just unmute yourself, and that's easier. But another question is, how can I break up my time to study high yield information versus low yield information?
Awesome. So breaking up your time to study high yield information versus low information. So kind of identifying when you're identifying that can be helpful. We usually like to recommend to people start identifying high yield information when they're previewing or attending lectures. So previewing is when you kind of look at the slides before lecture to kind of just see what's happening. This is where your professor will usually post learning objectives or topics that they're going to address. Um, Looking that as your kind of high yield information guidelines can be helpful to kind of start piecing the information together. Going through listening to a lecture with those objectives in mind will kind of help you put the pieces together. So definitely recommending starting to think about high yield information during lecture when you're previewing. And then once you go back to review lecture or kind of have more time to kind of sit with information, that's when you'll kind of more start figuring it out and then plugging in that lower level information under that high yield information. And this is where also supplemental readings may come into play. If you've attended lecture, gone through lecture, kind of reviewed your notes, and if you notice anything's missing or not understanding it fully, go into like other outside resources to kind of fill in the gaps. That may help you get more clarity on what those high yield objectives could be encompassing.
Thank you. And the last question that I had on my end that was submitted was, how can I ensure that my routine is balanced and includes time for self-care?
Awesome. Yes. Balance and self-care. A lot of it comes back to reflection on your routine and how you are feeling. So I'm personally really bad at reflection. I tried journaling once and it was like a journal that you have to like my mood for the day. And I was just like, I don't know, it was the day. I don't know how I felt. But being able to reflect about how you feel about things and how you felt after you did things can be beneficial to know if you are doing all the self-care that you need in the moment. And that self-care may look different each week, each day, each month, and what you need may be different. So knowing that it's not always if I do these three things every week, I'm great, I'm perfect. Knowing that it may change, you may have to do more. Some days you need to do less. Maybe you need to be more physical, like exercise more day. And maybe other weeks you need more time to just kind of sit and relax. So listening to your body and your mind about what will help me be more happy right now and what do I feel like I'm reaching for will kind of let you know if what you're doing is working for you or if you need to do something else to kind of help you get to what you want to be.
Great. Thank you for that. I also have a hard time with journaling sometimes, but I find that talking through like my notes app is a good way for me to do some
Oh,
reflection because I
mm,
also can't write or type as fast as I think. So I really appreciate that note about just reflecting. We just had someone submit a question asking that if they need to meet with CAP for a personal consultation, how would they go about doing that?
yes, I have a slide for that. So this is our email and our website. On here, you can schedule an appointment through the website. It's you just go to that website. There's a button that says "Make an appointment." That'll lead you to Simplicity, where you can book an appointment with a lot of our offices at the Division of Student Affairs here at HSC. If you're confused about how to navigate the website, or maybe you just have a quick question that doesn't really feel like it needs an appointment, you can also just email us. We can help you out and get to where you need to be from there. But setting up an appointment with a learning specialist to be very specific about what routine you want and what goals you have will be very helpful because you can kind of bring in all the things you want to do, all the things you're working on, all the goals you want to have, and we can go by one to kind of making sure that you're on that track of what you want to be.